everyone. Welcome to another episode of College Town Talk. I'm Shan Stout.
And I'm Jonathan Frank.
Jonathan, our guest today is another local musician and leader in the Upper Cumberland's art scene, so I'm going to need you to remember our deal.
I know I will not attempt to play an instrument or sing a song.
Because you know what happens when you do.
We lose listeners.
I'm glad we're on the same page. Our guest today is Dr. Colin Hill, director of the School of Music at Tennessee Tech. He is a longtime educator and sought-after percussionist. Dr. Hill also performs in the Bryan Symphony Orchestra and serves on its board of directors. He has presented concerts and clinics throughout the United States, Europe, Africa, and Asia. He has been part of the Tennessee Tech community since 2013. Dr. Hill, welcome to College Town Talk.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me here today.
Well, we're so thrilled you could join us. We have so much that we want to unpack with you today, but let's start with the fact that the School of Music at Tennessee Tech is having a moment right now. Enrollment in the School of Music has increased by, now listeners, wait for this, 89% over the last 4 years. That's an incredible, substantial increase. And you once again have the largest Golden Eagle marching band in university history. And your students and faculty are performing over 200 recitals and concerts each year. So you're not busy at all. What do you attribute to the school's growth and momentum in these recent years?
Yeah, I think it's a few factors. I think the biggest factor is our faculty. I mean, ultimately, that's why students come to Tennessee Tech for a music degree, is to study with our faculty. It's a very close relationship that you form with a music faculty member. You do private lessons for an hour once a week for your entire degree, which is really unique. You know, most degrees you have a professor for 1 or 2 semesters, then you move on. So we form a very close relationship with our professors. So I think the main reason why we've grown is just that we have excellent faculty right now. In 2018 and 19, we saw a huge turnover of our faculty members. We had about 11 hires out of 24 full-time positions.
Wow.
And with that, we got a new wave of young, really talented faculty members. And not to take away from the previous group of faculty that were there, but it was a new energy. A lot of them were in their first or second university positions, trying to establish themselves as a performer on the national, international stage. So they were hungry to develop their own reputation and their own instrumental studios. So I think there was kind of a perfect storm of a big changeover in faculty, but then also trying to implement more recruitment in high schools. So that's something that I found successful as the percussion professor, is kind of like much like coaches do, where you go to high school campuses and you introduce yourself.
So you were kind of scouting.
Exactly. And, you know, a common thing is to go to a percussion rehearsal at a high school and provide your input and guidance and get to know the students and get to know the band directors and the instructors in the area. So we really made a big push for our faculty to do exactly that. We kind of have a goal for every faculty member to visit 4 to 6 high schools per semester.
Wow.
And just forming those relationships with students and educators across the state has really resulted in a lot of students coming here to stay with those faculty members.
Well, I love the fact you talked about seasoned faculty, you know, and all of that experience versus the new, younger faculty and the innovations that contributed. So I think having a mix of that amongst any university so that you're not off the rails with so much progress that you can't maintain the momentum, but you also are having to sharpen the seasoned faculty because, you know, I'm more on the seasoned side of things now in my life. But, you know, when you work with people that are with the latest technology, the latest ideas, the latest innovations, you have to sharpen your skills and you have to stay relevant. And so to me, the nice mix there probably helped with that perfect storm of progress.
Yeah, and you know, I'm getting on the older side of the faculty now. I'm still relatively young, but you know, every time you get a new hotshot in and they do new and innovative things, it inspires you to do better in your position. So I think there's definitely some of that. I'll say the other thing that we've really done as a faculty and as a school of music is we've tried to develop new degree programs that were appealing to this generation, and also that address the changing of the music scene and career paths. So, you know, one other thing we did is we developed a lot of new degree programs that weren't the traditional career paths of being an educator or being a performer. right? That was kind of the 2 degrees we offered at Tennessee Tech. And it's kind of standard practice for universities. But we also knew, and we heard from our prospective students that, hey, I want to be a music major. I love this, but I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a performer. What else is there to do? So we developed the Bachelor of Science in Music degree. We started working on that really in 2020, but it got fully approved in 2022. And it was for all the students that want to be music majors, but not do those 2 traditional career paths. So it's all the other jobs in the field of music that are more industry related, whether that's working for a instrument maker, manufacturer, repair shop, working on the business or sales or marketing side of things. So we really tried to create a new kind of niche for a new generation of students. So one of the other kind of concentrations underneath that new Bachelor of Science degree was our Live Audio Engineering Technology program, which has been hugely successful. And then we also developed some new performance degrees that were a little more specific, such as musical theater. We had a lot of voice students that loved singing in choirs and performing, but really had a passion for musical theater. So we developed a new program in that, and then also a new program in multiple woodwinds. Multiple woodwinds is kind of a niche specialty, and what it is students that play a woodwind instrument that want to be in a pit orchestra on Broadway. A lot of times they don't hire a clarinetist and a flutist. They hire a woodwind specialist who plays all the woodwind instruments for that show.
Goodness.
So we're training our woodwind players to not just play one instrument, but play all the woodwind instruments, so they're prepared for that kind of career path.
Talented students.
You know, Shannon, it makes me think when Dr. Hill talks about the faculty in the School of Music, I'm thinking back on some of our previous interviews because we've had a chance to talk to so many of them. I remember Dr. Catherine Godis was one of our very first interviews. We had the maestro Dan Alcott on our program and so many others that have come on and talked with us. There are a lot of really special people in the School of Music, but I know that when we talk about the secret of the School of Music's success, I know that the Bryan Symphony Orchestra is also a really big part of that, which is now in its 63rd season. And our listeners have 2 more chances to catch the symphony in action at their concerts on March 29th and April 26th before they take a well-deserved break for the summer. And we've talked a lot about the BSO on this program. We had the chance to interview its new executive director, Susan Miranda, just a few weeks ago. But Dr. Hill, what does it mean to you to have the BSO here in Cookeville? And for listeners who maybe have never attended a concert or even been aware that we have a professional symphony in our community, what would you want them to know?
Yeah, in addition to being a great cultural asset to the community and something really that you can't find in most towns our size, I want to highlight also what it does for faculty and students. So for faculty, we have the unique opportunity to play in a professional ensemble that's a high caliber as part of our positions. And that's something that as educators, we sometimes lack. We love teaching, that's our passion, but we also love playing our instrument. And so it gives us an outlet. We rehearse really twice a week for an hour, plus our all-day Sunday rehearsals before the concert. So it gives the faculty an artistic outlet in a ensemble that's really common in our field. But I think maybe more importantly is what it does for recruitment and for our students. There's not many undergraduate students. We're a purely undergrad degree program in the School of Music. There's not many undergraduate students that get to play in a professional orchestra during their undergraduate degree. And so this is really unique. And not only do they get to play in that orchestra and have that on their resume, but they also get to sit next to their applied professor, their main professor who they do lessons with every week. And that is a unique experience in itself. They get to see the preparation that their faculty members show up to rehearsal with, the caliber of playing. They're sitting right next to them. They get to hear every note they play and how they play it. And then the mentorship. You know, in a rehearsal, you'll see the faculty members kind of whispering to their student about something they did that they could improve upon, or maybe a articulation or a change to how they're doing something. So it's not only just the experience, but it's that unique experience of getting sit next to a professional who they highly respect and see exactly how you should play and, approach a rehearsal.
Okay, now I love everything about this because I firmly believe that it gives a student a leg up to be able to, mentor and do the role that they are trying to aspire towards. Like, that is like an apprenticeship within the college music, right?
Absolutely.
So with you're talking about the professors are basically these long-term mentors for the students. So I love the fact that they are bonding with their professor. They are playing alongside them as well. So that way, iron sharpens iron. And
Yep.
I think that, while you are sitting, say, next to a student that you mentor, are you, after performances, are you helping them, advising them? Are they asking you questions? What is that relationship like? And then what instrument do you play for Bryan Symphony Orchestra?
Yeah. So I play timpani. Typically, I sometimes will play other percussion instruments, but mostly timpani. And, usually our students that are in this ensemble are really high achieving students and great musicians. So usually it's just a sense of pride when you get to hear them perform at such a high level in a concert situation. But I'll also say that it keeps me on my game. When I show up to rehearsal, I need to make sure I practice what I preach in lessons as far as preparation, as far as how I execute my part. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. The students, obviously, there's that pressure of playing next to their faculty. We hear every single thing they do in those rehearsals, but also it keeps me sharp knowing that I need to set a good example every day in rehearsal.
I think that's wonderful. Now, we've talked about the School of Music. We've talked about the Bryan Symphony Orchestra, but now I want to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm always fascinated to talk with musicians about how they first found their passion for their craft. You have an undergraduate, master's, and a doctoral degree in percussion performance. So this is obviously a talent you've perfected over a long period of time. What is the first moment you wanted to be a percussionist? And did you always envision turning this talent into a full-time career, or did that evolve over time?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an evolution. I started first on piano. My sister and I were told we needed to take piano as young children. I started when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I liked it much more than my sister did. We'll say that. I really enjoyed playing the instrument. I love performing. I remember performing at a Tony Roma's when I was like 8 or 9 years old, just because I wanted to get up there and play for the establishment. So I've always loved playing and performing. So when I got to middle school, I had the option to choose choir or band. And so I thought, let's do band. Piano wasn't an instrument I could play. But my sister was 2 years older. She was in the band, and she was dating a drummer, and I thought he was the coolest guy ever. So I wanted to be just like Nick. So I said, I'll do drums. So I tried for being a percussionist in 6th grade, and then from there it was just a ton of different awesome experiences. I played in a garage band all through middle school, and we play at middle school lunches. When I got to high school, I really got into marching percussion and the marching band. I started doing drum corps in the summers. I should tell you that I was still not totally sold on having a career in music. When I was a senior in high school, I was also heavily involved with sports and athletics. And my grandfather was a sports doctor. And so I thought maybe I wanted to be, a doctor or maybe a musician. But I thought, what? I want to be a starving musician. That's
You
much
have
better
some multifaceted interest. I mean, what a diverse resume going on here.
Well, and he has a doctor of music arts, so he is a doctor.
You are.
So it all worked out.
Check.
Yeah. So then when I got to college, I wanted to play my instrument, and I love that. But I was really inspired by my teachers. Like I said earlier, you form a very special, unique relationship with your professors. And so I had amazing professors during my undergrad at University of North Texas. And so I pretty much my sophomore year of college, I decided I wanted to be a college professor. And I knew that would require graduate study work. And I was found out that I enjoyed school. I enjoyed playing my instrument. So that was kind of the path I decided to take.
I love that story because I know people that can attest to this, how true it is about the bond that students form with their faculty mentors at Tennessee Tech. We're interviewing Rachel Smalling later today, who
wonderful.
I know was just mentored by Professor Alcott, and would say that I think he's been one of the big influences in her life. We like to say it's personal at Tennessee Tech. That's one of our taglines, and I think that's especially true in the School of Music. But I want to pick up on Shan's question, Dr. Hill, and ask about more on your background and career, because I want to know about the path that led you to Tennessee Tech. And I genuinely, I'm curious. I don't know the answer to this. You've lived, studied, worked in Kentucky, Indiana, Texas. You've, as we said in the introduction, performed all over the world. So how did you find your way to Cookeville, Tennessee?
Yeah. So when I graduated with my doctorate in Kentucky, I started applying for every full-time percussion position out there. And in 2013, the market was not great. I sent out a total of 6 applications. There were 6 professor of percussion positions open.
I wondered how narrow the field is for...
Yeah, in 2013. Well, ironically, I got a job interview and I got offered a position. But upon discussing the position with my wife and the location of this position, we decided it was not the best move. So we decided to stay put in Lexington and keep doing what I was doing, which I was teaching at 3 or 4 high schools, teaching lessons and helping with their drum lines. And I was also teaching at Center College in Danville, Kentucky as an adjunct percussion instructor. And then I got a phone call about 2 weeks after turning down a full-time tenure track position. I got a phone call from the current professor at Tennessee Tech, Eric Willey. And it turns out we had overlapped during my undergraduate degree at University of North Texas. He was doing his doctorate at the time when I was an undergraduate student, so we knew each other. And he had a position come available, and he knew I was semi-close and asked if I wanted to take it, and I said yes. But it wasn't enough money to give up my other positions. So I was commuting from Lexington, Kentucky to Cookeville, Tennessee, which is a 3.5-hour commute each direction.
Yeah, just a tiny jaunt down the road.
So I was doing that Mondays and Wednesdays, and I would come for football games because I was working with the drumline that year. That was the same year my son was born, so a lot of, sleep was maybe not something
priority.
Part of my life. Yeah, that year. But I was pleasantly surprised by the music program at Tennessee Tech. I didn't really know much about it besides knowing Eric Willey. And so that kind of got my foot in the door. I did that for 2013 and 2014. I was adjunct percussion instructor. And then just by luck, Eric Willey took a position in North Carolina, kind of in April, very last minute of 2014. And so they offered me the interim position in 2014. So at that point, we decided to move to Cookeville, and I was interim for a year. And then the next year, I applied for the tenure track position and got that in 2015. And I've been here ever since.
And it all works out. And I want to say to any students that are listening, and I say this to our interns and any young staff that I have, networking is a whole different level of thinking. People think that you go to these, business after hours and the morning coffees with that. Yes, that is networking in our world. But in the college community, making friends, getting to know people, not only within your circle, but outside your circle. I mean, your story about Eric is a prime example. And we hear this a lot. We went to school together, or they knew me, or we had the same background in this skill or that skill. And it really, really is who you know a lot of times when you're looking one resume to another resume. When 2 people are kind of leveling the playing field on paper, you need one additional little thing to, get you over the finish line. And so, students just need to remember the importance of not just doing great in school and making good grades, but all of that, making friends, joining clubs, and being social is very important to your long range career.
You're exactly right. And I'm so glad you said that, because I preach this to my students all the time. You start your professional reputation that will follow you around for the rest of your career your first day of college. And I'm a firm believer in that, because when I look around the state, around the country of who's teaching percussion, both at the high school and college level, there are a lot of my peers that I went to school with. So I'm reminded of that every single day, and I think that's a huge point to make.
And you remember if they're lazy,
Exactly.
if they were messy,
Yep.
if they were funny, if they were, focused. You remember all of that.
Absolutely.
So that you're building your reputation now.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, Dr. Hill, I want to touch on something you mentioned briefly earlier, and that is an exciting development in the School of Music. Talk to us about the disciplines between engineering and integrating that with music. You've got a special announcement to students who might be interested in these two disciplines.
Yeah, as part of our push to develop new degree programs, we developed a new concentration in live audio engineering technology, which I mentioned previously. And this is just a really unique degree to Tennessee Tech and really the field. We're hard pressed to find another degree program like this around the country that specializes in live audio. You can get music technology degrees at other institutions, but most of them focus on the recording studio aspect of things. And this is uniquely live audio. And we've worked with the College of Engineering to not only have our students take their classes, but they also earn a minor in electrical and computer engineering. And this is something that we found that was important to the industry. You can kind of enter the live audio field from a few different backgrounds. And most commonly it's music or it's electrical engineering. And so we decided to combine both of those into our degree program. And the program's growing like crazy. And we have our first class of graduates this May, and we're excited to see what they do. But it's a really exciting new career path in the field of music, as well as at Tennessee Tech University.
And very relevant being so close to Nashville.
Absolutely.
Finally, Dr. Hill, we've enjoyed this conversation today, but we like to end each interview on this podcast with the same question, and that is, what is one way that Tennessee Tech has impacted your life?
That's a great question. I think because Tennessee Tech was my first full-time job in kind of the career path that I was desiring, I'm just thankful for Tech for giving me a chance and letting me establish my career as a college professor. They hired me in 2013 as adjunct. They hired me again as interim in 2014 and then again in 2015. And not only has it been an opportunity, but I've also just felt this immense support from the institution and from my colleagues and from my supervisors. It's just enabled me to really pursue the career that I sought out to do when I was an undergrad. And I feel so fortunate. And beyond that, to do it in Cookeville. My wife and I have 2 children. They're 9 and 12 years old. And I think we'll be here forever. We just love Cookeville. It's an amazing community. Tech feels like our family. All aspects of our life are intertwined with Tech. Our social network, the activities our kids are involved with, everything we do, I always find these Tech connections all throughout the community. And I think that's really special about our university.
Well, we appreciate you being on our guest today on College Town Talk, and we're really glad that you are not commuting 3.5 hours each way to Cookeville anymore. So, Dr. Hill, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
And for our listeners, if you're enjoying our show and hearing from Tennessee Tech faculty and leaders in our local arts community like Dr. Colin Hill, would you please do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get this podcast? It all helps to spread the word about the great things happening right here in Cookeville.
We'll meet you back here again next week for more conversations with the people who make Cookeville, Tennessee's college town. College Town Talk is presented by Tennessee Tech University in partnership with the Cookeville-Putnam County Visitors Bureau. Your hosts are Jonathan Frank and Shan Stout, and original music is performed by Andrew Buckner. Visit us online at tntech.edu/collegetowntalk.